Okay, we got Tanya Holliday. Well, first, I want to thank you for taking the time out your day to talk with me. I appreciate it. So we're gonna start from the beginning on down from the viewers to get to know you better. So you were
Okay.
born and raised in Chicago.
Yep, absolutely. Southside.
What was it like growing up in the area?
Back this was I'll age myself, but back in the 80s, growing up, I lived on 74th and Wabash.
Okay.
So it was pretty, back then, like I knew all my neighbors. We looked out for each other. I could go walk around the neighborhood and be fine, no worries. My parents didn't know where I was. Um, but it was just cool. I thank God for my upbringing. It was a wonderful time to grow up in Chicago.
Okay. What school you went to?
Okay, so I'm a Catholic girl. I'm a Catholic school kid. Um, I went to St. Columbanus, which was on 71st and Calumet.
Okay.
And then for high school, I went to Holy Name Cathedral downtown.
How was it
Yeah.
like going up?
Oh my God, that was one of the best days of my life. It was really cool. I used to ride the train with my mom when she was going to work, and then I would just go to school. I remember we had open lunch, so you could go out. So we were on Chicago and State. So just hanging out at the different restaurants. Sometimes we'd be late going back to school. But I specifically remember after school, we would go to the water tower. That's when it was like a full-fledged mall. And we would go in the stores and try on different outfits and have like a fashion show until they would kick us out. Um, so it was a lot of like hanging out, waiting for my mom to get off work, and then we just ride the train back home. So it was so I can't even describe how awesome it was. It was really cool to like be downtown and be in high school.
Downtown Chicago. It's so beautiful out there to this day.
Man, I recently, last summer, I went up to the campus. It's not a high school anymore. Um, Somebody else took it over, but the church is still there. But it's so different from what I remember back in the 90s being in high school. Everything, the McDonald's is still there on Chicago and State, but everything else looks completely different from what I remember. Yeah.
Okay. So the fact that we both from Chicago, I gotta ask you, Uncle Remus or Harold's? If you had to pick, which one hit better?
Oh my God, Harold's all day,
Facts,
all day.
facts. I
I
agree
had
with
Uncle Remus once, and I was like, "What is this?" No, Harold's all day.
Okay. Uncle Remus, they from out west. So I recently just tried them. The difference is they sauce is like a little sweet. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I definitely agree with you. I grew up on Harold's all day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have any siblings?
Yeah, so I have two older sisters that are twins. One passed from breast cancer about 13 years ago. But two older siblings, so my older siblings went to public school.
Okay.
And I don't know what happened, but the decision was made that myself, and my younger brother, we were going to Catholic school. So,
So you was the youngest
uh,
out the girls?
out the girls, yes, I was the youngest. Yep. Yep. And then my baby brother came along. So there's four of us. And then my cousin, I don't even like to call her cousin because she always grew up with us, my first cousin. I consider her my sister. Yeah, she grew up in the house with us. So
Okay.
I feel like I have four siblings, but biologically I have three.
Okay. That's what's up. Now what music you grew up on? Like who was your favorite artist to listen to coming up?
Hmm. I feel like, when I was younger, I didn't have a whole lot of control over the music that I listened to. Was forced to listen to what my sisters listened to, so a ton of DeBarge. I remember listening to them. But when I would say like eighth grade, seventh, eighth grade, middle school, I remember a kid bringing NWA tape to school. And I was like, oh, can I dub your tape? Um, so I remember going home, dubbing the tape. I had to turn the volume all the way down because my dad would have killed me. And that was like when it started. It was like, okay, that's it from here. Um, so just grew up NWA, Eric B. and Rakim, just watching Yo MTV Raps every day after school. I remember that. Um, but that's when like Two Live Crew, like all the music that I wasn't supposed to be listening to, I listened to. But New Edition, I remember the first record that I bought was Will DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. So yeah, that was the music that I listened to when I was really young. But rap kind of took over, and that was it for me.
Okay. So if you had a top five list, who would it be?
You mean from when I was young?
It could be from you was young or currently, like as you got older and then you start to be able to listen to music. Like who was your go to? Like if you had a top five, who you put in your top five?
Top five. Um, well, of course, pop. That's number one because I still heavy rotation. Um, I'm a big Lil Wayne fan. Um, gotta put Michael Jackson in there. Um, I would finish it off with Kaylani and Drake.
Okay. All right. That's a good list. Okay.
Yeah.
So speaking of Tupac, um, you met the late great icon Tupac Shakur in Evergreen Plaza.
Yes.
Now that's
Yes.
legendary. Take us to that time from the beginning, how you encountered with Pop.
Okay, so uh senior year, I think I had turned, so I was young. I started school young, so I was 16 as a senior. You know, back in the day, you could start school early. So I was in kindergarten at 3, um, or 4, and graduated high school at 16. So during my senior year, I went to my friend Kim. We went to Evergreen Plaza, and we were just filling out job applications. Um, but I really wanted to work at Champ, so I remember writing a letter and attaching it to my application. And so got that job. Met some of everybody there. You know, back in the day, the plaza was just the place to be. So I remember R. Kelly coming through. I remember Twista. I remember seeing Twista. I'm pretty sure I was there around the time that Kanye was there, but he wasn't really known back then. So I don't know if I met him or not. But the day that Pac came to the mall, I was at the register, but I wasn't working the register. I was kind of off to the side. Um, my boss liked my handwriting, so I always wrote out the schedule for the week. So I was kind of at this, along the register, there was an area that was like glass encased, and it had the AACA, the African American College Alliance gear that people used, the HBCU sweaters that we used to wear back in the 90s. So I was writing above that case. And where Champs was positioned in the mall, it was downstairs and it was below the escalator. Like I could see the escalator when looking out the door. So I just remember seeing like 2 or 3 bodies go flying down, like they were running down the escalator, like top speed. And so I looked up, and stuff like that just kind of would happen. So I didn't think much of it. And then the next time I looked up, Pac was running into our store. And he was with maybe 2 or 3 guys, I can't remember. And they were saying, put down the gate, put down the gate, put down the gate. So my manager came and he put down the gate, but he didn't know who Pac was. So we were, everybody working in the store, we were just like losing our minds, like, oh my God, Tupac, Tupac. Um, so we put down the gate. had to like I remember a few people had to stand there and like hold the gate because this mob just came down the escalator after him. Um, but luckily we got him safe inside the store, pulled down the gate. It was a big mob at the gate. We had to close, so there was a door from the second level that would it was like a back door, a back entry. So we had to make sure that that was locked so that people couldn't come in that way. And then Pac went right to the shoe section. He started looking at shoes, and then he came to where I was standing in complete shock and asked to see some of the hats that were in that glass case that I was standing over, that I was writing on. So I was handing him the different hats, and then I was just like, "Can I get your autograph?" And we had this like pad of champs paper, and so he wrote it on there, and then people started asking me like, "Give me one, Tanya, give me one, give me one." So I remember him doing Wheels, and I remember him doing my friend Kim's, and then he walked away. Um, but you know, like back then we didn't have cell phones, and somebody would have had to have a disposable camera. So I don't remember anybody taking any pictures or anything like that. Um, and then after that, he exited up that back stairwell because that mob was at the door at the gate and he couldn't get out that way. And that was it.
A lot of people would break their neck to be in position to see Tupac. Now,
Yes, and
and
talk to him.
exactly, and what year was that? That was in '93.
It had to have been 93 because I remember either like Poetic Justice had just come out or it was about to come out. I remember thinking about that
Okay.
when he was in the store. Yeah.
What's your favorite movie of Tupac?
So I have to go with Poetic Justice.
That's good.
Pete. I say that all the time. Pete.
What's your favorite album from Tupac?
Oh, I'm gonna go with All Eyes on Me.
All Eyes on Me. Okay, yeah, you
Yeah,
can't go with that.
yeah, that's a classic.
Tell me, where was you when you heard about the passing of Tupac? How did you feel about the tragic news?
Gosh, where was I? I remember being at home, and I have family that lives in Vegas. So I remember my cousin Renee calling me and telling me that some stuff had been happened, that he had been shot. Um, I remember turning on the TV. I don't know if it was like MTV or something. Back then, like they used to break through, like whatever show was on, they would kind of break in with breaking news. So I remember that. I remember us talking about it at work the next day at the store at Champs. Um, because I had left when I went to college. I left Champs, but then I ended up going back. So I worked there a few more years um, after high school. And then, so I remember us like, you know, talking about it and remembering when he came. And then I remember being at Champs and we would have the radio playing and them announcing it there. And I just broke down crying. Like I broke down in tears. And it was like weird because, you know, like here I am in the same place where I met him. And I'm in the same exact place where learning about his death. Um, So yeah, I just remember standing there like bawling my eyes out and having to go to the back room to kind of gather myself. Yeah.
Wow. How impactful Tupac was to you?
I remember having an argument with my mom once about how brilliant I thought he was, just listening to his interviews. And my mom was just like, holy roller, like, no, not doing that gangster rap, any of that kind of stuff. And I remember just telling her, like, Mom, this man was a genius. Like he was so smart. I felt like he was like almost prophet level to black people then. And I feel like a lot of the things that he said are like still prolific to this day. I thought that he was beyond an entertainer. He was um, a leader to me in my mind. I felt like wow, he could really like revolutionize our people. Um, and it was just a life that was just cut too short.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, I agree everything you said. Are you familiar with Lil Yummy that was from Chicago that lost his life?
Little who?
Little Yummy, Robert
Yeah.
Sandfield.
I feel like yes, I remember that story. Yes.
So the reason I brought that up because how Tupac was so impactful and so him and being the leader, he was so upset about that happen and that happened in Chicago and he's not even from Chicago. So the fact
Yeah.
he had a show in Milwaukee, which is Milwaukee is not that far from Chicago, and the people that because Lil Yummy was I want to say he was like 9, 10 years old when he
Mhm.
passed away, and Tupac was so hurt he heard it was Black Disciples that did it. So it was Black Disciples at that Pacific concert in Milwaukee, and he seen them, and he was just so upset that to the fact he got into it with them, and the show had to basically be canceled because they almost got into an altercation. And the reason I bring that up because how you saying how Tupac is a leader and he was for the blacks, like he really cared about our people.
Yeah.
For him to do that is very powerful because I don't know no other celebrities or rappers will ever do something like that on top of helping a black person that was getting beat up by two off-duty police, and Tupac stopped his car and got out and helped because
Mhm.
nowadays you will never hear nothing like that. So
Right.
Tupac was a whole nother level. How did you feel when Tupac used to speak his mind?
I just thought like everybody needs to hear this. Like, you know, even the beef he had with different politicians, it was just like, you know, I just felt like, is anybody listening? Like, is anybody hearing the words that he's saying? And so that's why I was such a defender of like him, and I just felt like he could have done so much as far as just again it, you know, even like today with the youth and the issues of that are happening in our world today. I felt like he always had a voice and an opinion. You know how Lil Durk calls himself the voice. I feel like Tupac was the voice for my generation. Um, and some people, you know, couldn't see past him being a rapper, or you know, they considered him to be a thug, but there was just so much more to him. um and I really, that was like the side of him that I advocated for. When people would bring him up, I'm like, you don't even know half of who he is, and what he really stands for. So that, I feel like, was the impact that he had on my life. I still watch his interviews and kind of hold true to some of the things that he would say, because it made sense to me. You know, everything that he would say made sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want the viewers to know?
Um, no, I think he did a pretty good job. I can't think of, you know, anything else. I did go see his when I went to see my cousins recently. I went to where he was killed, where he was shot, I should say, and said a little prayer, sent a prayer up for him. Um, you know, but no, I think you covered everything.
Now, for the viewers, shout out your Instagram so people can follow and get in tune with you.
So my Instagram is sign Tanya Tanya underscore. Um, yeah, that's me.
Okay. Anything else you want the viewers to know before we close out?
Um, I would just say that like the 90s were a time to be alive, man. Like growing up in the 90s, um, and being a part, I felt like I was a part of history with rap really getting started. You know, we it's so commonplace now, but back when I was growing up, like I said, I had to sneak and listen to NWA. Um, but that was just seeing the beginning of something and seeing it through and seeing how it's still impactful today. I hope that every young generation gets to experience that.
Okay. Thank you for telling us your story.
Yeah,
I
of course.
the,
Thank you for having me.
the Tupac community are going to like this. Life is what you make it. Keep going. God bless you. And thank you again. It was good talking to you.
Absolutely.